The brothers Grimm collected their fairy tales from the darkest corners of medieval folklore, but few realized that Rapunzel conceals something far more disturbing than a simple story of imprisonment. Recently uncovered manuscripts suggest the tale masks a documented case of systematic torture that occurred in the Germanic regions during the 13th century, involving practices so brutal they were deliberately obscured behind the veil of children's literature. But before we uncover the mystery, hit that subscribe button below. It was the autumn of 1267 when Dominican friars first documented the case that would later inspire one of history's most unsettling fairy tales. In the remote valleys of the Black Forest, near what is now southwestern Germany, a monastery's records describe events that challenge our understanding of medieval justice and human cruelty. The stone tower still stands today, though local authorities have sealed it from public access. Rising 40 feet above the forest floor, its walls bear scratches that forensic analysis suggests were made by human fingernails over extended periods. The structure, known in medieval documents as the Turris Penitentiae, served purposes that extended far beyond simple imprisonment. Brother Heinrich of Cologne, the monastery's scribe, maintained detailed records of what he termed the purification of the maiden Rapunzel. The woman's real name appears to have been Radegund, a 20-year-old accused of practicing forbidden arts in the nearby village of Waldheim. Her alleged crimes included the preparation of herbal remedies that local authorities deemed too effective to be natural. The accusations against Radegund followed a pattern familiar to medieval persecution. Village women reported that her hair possessed unusual properties, growing at an unnatural rate and displaying a golden hue that seemed to shimmer in candlelight. Several witnesses claimed her hair continued growing even after being cut, reaching lengths that defied natural explanation. The tribunal that condemned Radegund consisted of 3 ecclesiastical judges and a secular magistrate. Their sentence specified that her hair would serve as both the instrument and symbol of her punishment. The tower's design reflected this purpose, with its single window positioned precisely 40 feet above ground level, accessible only by scaling the exterior wall. Brother Heinrich's records describe the daily routine imposed upon the prisoner. Each morning, guards would arrive at the tower's base and call for Radegund to lower her hair. The length required for this descent necessitated that her hair reach extraordinary proportions, achieved through a combination of herbal treatments and what the documents cryptically refer to as divine intervention. The herbal preparations merit particular attention. Monastery records list ingredients including devil's claw, bloodroot, and substances identified only by Latin names that modern botanists cannot definitively classify. These compounds were applied to Radegund's scalp twice daily, producing hair growth that exceeded normal human rates by factors that Brother Heinrich described as miraculous yet terrible. The psychological component of the punishment proved equally systematic. Radegund's hair served as the sole means of contact with the outside world, making her own body the instrument of her captivity. Guards would climb, using her hair, not only to deliver food and water, but to conduct what the records term spiritual examination. These examinations involved procedures that pushed the boundaries of sanctioned ecclesiastical investigation. The monastery's physician, Brother Albertus, documented physical changes in the prisoner that he attributed to prolonged exposure to the tower's unique conditions. Her hair reportedly began displaying properties that defied contemporary understanding of human physiology. The tower itself contained features that enhanced the punishment's effectiveness. Interior walls were lined with a mixture of lime and iron filings that created an abrasive surface, ensuring that any attempt to rest against them would result in injury. The floor consisted of fitted stones with deliberate gaps that prevented comfortable positioning for sleep. More disturbing were the acoustic properties built into the structure. The tower's dimensions created resonance effects that amplified sound, turning whispers into echoes and making silence impossible to achieve. This acoustic torture complemented the physical restraints, creating an environment where psychological breakdown became inevitable. Brother Heinrich's most detailed entries describe the changes observed in Radegund's behavior over the months of her confinement. Initially defiant, she gradually developed what modern psychology would recognize as symptoms of severe trauma. Her responses to guards became increasingly erratic, alternating between periods of catatonic silence and episodes of violent resistance. The hair growth continued throughout her imprisonment, reaching lengths that required specially trained guards to manage the climbing process. These men, selected from local mercenaries, received additional compensation for what the records describe as duties beyond normal expectation. Several guards requested reassignment, citing experiences they refused to detail in official reports. The tower's isolation served multiple purposes beyond preventing escape. Located 3 miles from the nearest settlement, it allowed for procedures that would have attracted unwanted attention in populated areas. The forest itself was considered cursed by local inhabitants, who reported strange sounds and unexplained phenomena occurring near the structure. These phenomena included sightings of lights moving around the tower at night, despite the absence of any external illumination source. Multiple witnesses described hearing voices, speaking in languages they could not identify, emanating from the direction of the tower during hours when no guards were present. The most puzzling aspect of the case involves the relationship between Radegund's punishment and the effects it produced on her captors. Brother Heinrich's later entries suggest that guards began experiencing physical symptoms after prolonged exposure to the prisoner. These symptoms included premature graying of hair, sudden onset of severe headaches, and what the monastery's physician termed nervous afflictions. The ecclesiastical investigation that followed these reports uncovered evidence suggesting that Radegund's alleged supernatural abilities may have been authentic. Guards reported that her hair would sometimes move independently of wind or physical manipulation, coiling and uncoiling in patterns that seemed to respond to her emotional state. More disturbing were accounts of the hair's apparent sensitivity to approaching danger. On several occasions, guards reported that Radegund's hair would suddenly retract upward moments before they reached the tower, as if responding to their presence before visual contact was possible. This phenomenon required the development of new protocols for accessing the prisoner. The final entries in Brother Heinrich's chronicle describe events that led to the abrupt termination of Radegund's imprisonment. In the winter of 1269, guards arriving for their regular duties found the tower's window empty. The hair that had served as their climbing apparatus was gone, apparently cut at its base and removed entirely. Investigation of the tower's interior revealed conditions that differed markedly from previous inspections. The walls, previously scarred by fingernail scratches, were now covered in symbols that resembled no known writing system. These markings appeared to have been carved with considerable precision, suggesting access to tools that should not have been available to the prisoner. The symbols themselves presented a puzzle that occupied ecclesiastical scholars for decades. Arranged in geometric patterns that covered every accessible surface, they displayed mathematical relationships that exceeded the educational level typically available to medieval women. The precision of their execution suggested either extended periods of work or capabilities that transcended normal human limitations. Most puzzling was the discovery of Radegund's hair, found arranged in elaborate braids that formed complex patterns on the tower's floor. The braids contained elements that analysis showed could not have originated from human hair, including fibers that displayed properties resembling plant matter and metallic substances that medieval science could not identify. The investigation's conclusion raised more questions than it answered. Church authorities declared that divine intervention had freed Radegund, but sealed all records related to the case. The tower was abandoned, and local authorities forbade any discussion of the events that had occurred there. The transformation of these events into the fairy tale known as Rapunzel occurred over subsequent centuries, as oral traditions gradually obscured the darker elements of the original case. The Brothers Grimm, collecting these stories in the early 19th century, may have been unaware of the historical foundation underlying the tale they recorded. Modern examination of the tower reveals evidence that supports the medieval accounts. Carbon dating of the interior markings confirms their 13th century origin, while analysis of residual materials found in the structure indicates the presence of compounds that remain unidentified by contemporary science. The hair samples preserved in monastery archives display properties that challenge current understanding of human biology. Microscopic examination reveals cellular structures that differ from normal human hair, suggesting either genetic anomalies or environmental factors that produced unprecedented physiological changes. What do you think happened to Radegund in that final winter, and how could her hair have possessed such impossible properties? Subscribe for more hidden histories that reveal the terrifying truths behind our most beloved stories.